Hello, sweet viewers. Annyeong, that means hi in Korean. I'm Christine from Kimbop TV, empowering you to live a happier and safer life, especially if you're a fellow domestic violence survivor. So, around this time of the year, a few years ago, is when I started to embrace this term called survivor. I had recently gotten out of my abusive relationship, and little did I know then how difficult my journey would be going forward. One definition of survivor is this: a person who continues to function or prosper in spite of opposition, hardship, or setbacks. Again, a person who continues to function or prosper in spite of opposition, hardship, or setbacks. My goal through these videos is to reach at least one person who is experiencing right now what I've gone through and be with them during their survivor journey. I remember feeling incredibly lonely and lost during the immediate hours, days, and weeks after I fled my abuser. So I thought now would be a good time for me to go back and recount some key moments from when I left to afterwards, when I started to put one foot in front of the other as a survivor. I hope sharing these bits and pieces of my personal experience helps you to get a better idea of what to expect and let you know that you are not alone. Let's get started. The day I left my abuser was a really cold day. I was physically assaulted by him in my home for a long while. I had bruises and contusions all over my head. It was throbbing. But somehow, by the grace of God, I managed to put on some flip-flops as I frantically ran out. And I also managed to grab onto these guys who witnessed the assault as I fled. The first thing I did after getting into my car was call my abuser's parents. It still disturbs me to this day. And I remember hearing my abuser's dad's voice that night. He did not sound surprised at all when I told him what happened. They told me to go to their house, so I started to drive there. And then I called my boss because looking at my bruised face, I knew that I couldn't go to work the next day. My boss had a suspicion that I may not be in a good place because a few weeks ago, I had to turn in work equipment that was banged up and broken. I did not tell my boss that my partner damaged them, but he's a smart guy and probably figured it out by himself. He asked where I was going, and when I told him, he made me stop. He told me, "Do not go there. Do you have a friend nearby? If not, I will come get you." This was the first piece of life-changing advice I got after I left my abuser, and I will repeat it to you today. If and when you are fleeing from your abuser, do not go to their parents' place. They will protect your abuser before they protect you. I ended up going to a friend who took one look at me and called 911. Police and medical responders came over, took my vitals, and urged me to get to the emergency room. My abuser's parents kept calling me and they told me not to pick up. And I will repeat this advice too. Do not pick up your phone if your abuser or their parents call, and do not respond to any text messages from them. And if you have been physically assaulted, go to the hospital right away and have medical professionals document what happened to you. This is important evidence that shows that someone hurt you. You will need this in court one day if you ever want to seek justice. And even if you don't know if that's the route that you want to go at that moment, you'll always have documentation that someone caused you harm. In my case, a doctor counted, or at least tried to count, all of the bruises and contusions on my face. I also got an MRI, which took a deeper look into my head. The doctor told me that it was a miracle that I did not suffer internal bleeding. During this entire time, I remember at least a couple of police officers being with me, and their presence was so comforting. I was in a sterile environment. It was a very scary time for me. So seeing them in my room, genuinely concerned and wanting to help, it meant a lot. But I know not every law enforcement officer is that kind. A detective called me as I was leaving the hospital after several hours there. I was beyond exhausted and still in pain with a severely swollen face. He got mad at me because I didn't want to go to the police station right then. He said he was woken up and had already driven from his home to the station to do this work. He tried to guilt me into coming in at that moment, but my friend took me to her home. He had to wait. If any police are watching this, please be more considerate of domestic violence victims who suffered a lot of physical injuries. I was severely troubled that the person who was supposed to help me during my weakest and most vulnerable time chose to come across as an insensitive jerk. I took medication that the doctor gave me, but I was still in a lot of pain. I couldn't sleep for nights. My friend gave me her bed and her soft pillow, but they felt like 1,000 needles piercing through my head. If you have similar head trauma from your partner punching you or scraping your head, in my case with my ring that he tore off my finger, yeah, it's gonna hurt like hell for a while. Take whatever medication your doctor gives you, but be prepared to experience a lot of discomfort for a while. In my case, the pain eventually subsided, but I still get chronic headaches. I continuously work with doctors to manage my pain. The following morning, I went into the police station to meet with the detective. I had to recall everything that happened. So if you get a chance, as soon as you leave your abuser and something happened like an assault that made you leave, write down everything that happened. The shock and the roller coaster of emotions may make it difficult for you to think logically sometimes. So this is very important. Your testimony of what happened needs to be told again and again. It will trigger you and it will make you very uncomfortable. But you are your best defender. If you experienced injustice and want to fight for yourself and for your rights as a human being, you are brave enough to share your story with the police. And there should be kind people there if you don't have family or friends nearby to be with you. Many police departments have a victim advocate whose job is to help you navigate through this incredibly difficult time. Many police departments also team up with local nonprofits that exist to help survivors of domestic violence. Sometimes they will have volunteers who may even speak your language, if English is not your primary language, to come and be with you during this process. To be completely transparent, going to the police department and having to rehash what happened was so traumatizing. But again, it's a necessary step and a very important one for you to take if you want to give yourself a voice. I think of it like this. If I don't tell them about the most horrific injustice I've experienced, no one will know and no one will care. Unfortunately, our justice system is flawed, and you may never seek the true justice that you deserve. I didn't. It was unfair and it sucked a lot. It made me angry and also a lot of other negative emotions. But I knew I did everything in my power to stand up for myself, and just knowing that for yourself, you should feel empowered. I'm gonna leave it at this for today. I know it's heavier than my usual videos, but I hope the information is helpful and useful. Thank you so much for being with me during this process, and please help me to get the word out to anyone you know who needs to hear this. Thank you so much again for your time, and remember to like and subscribe so I know you're there and that I can feel your support. I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. Take great care of yourselves. Bye.